Good morning, colleagues on the platform. Let's just wait until 10 o'clock, 5 more minutes to go, then we'll start our meeting. A very good morning to you all.
Chairperson, morning, Chair.
Good morning, good morning. Lebabalo, please, somebody must just change my name also.
Recording in progress.
My name is Aswat. Welcome. Thanks. I've already assisted with renaming you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lebabalo. Thanks.
A very good morning and welcome to our meetings, colleagues. I don't know if I'm audible enough, Mr. Nodada.
Yes, Chairperson, you are. Good morning, Chairperson.
A very good morning to you all on the platform, honorable members, the support staff of the committee, stakeholders present today, and members of the public that might be joining our meeting. I'm going to request Mr. Nodada for you to run through the apologies before I officially can give a purpose of why this meeting is called today.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, Chairperson and honorable members, colleagues who have joined. Chairperson, we have two apologies. An apology from Mr. Khadebe. He is experiencing network issues, but he indicated that if possible, the network improves, he will join the meeting. But if there's no improvement, then he might not be able to join. We also have an apology from Honorable Siwisa. However, Mr. Kaza is present in the meeting. Thank you, Chairperson. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nodada, and all in the platform. Welcome once again. Colleagues, stakeholders, members of the public that are here with us today, this is one of the important public hearings for this committee, as we'll be dealing with the Adjustments Appropriations Bill and the Special Appropriations Bill. It is, or I should say, it is my honor to welcome all of you in today's meeting. We have convened this meeting to deliberate on the critical matters that will impact the financial governance of our resources and the communities we serve. The bills we are discussing represent a significant opportunity for our government to respond effectively to the evolving needs of our society. These appropriations will not only facilitate initial services, but also foster development and provide relief to vulnerable groups. Colleagues, it is imperative that when we engage in meaningful dialogue, as we consider the allocations of the proposed or the proposals within the bills, as members of this committee, as honorable members of parliament, like I always say, on top of our agenda will be that we are here representing the majority of people, the majority of citizens, and our interest is to serve their interest and make sure that we work towards making sure that their livelihoods improves. I must indicate to colleagues that we received several submissions from several stakeholders, but in the meeting with us today, we'll be having only 3 stakeholders which will be making oral submissions. The following stakeholders are the ones for oral submissions with us today: the Youth Capital. We also have the Breadline Africa and COSATU, which is the Congress of South African Trade Unions, whom some of us are always expecting when we talk of the public hearings for this committee. We really appreciate your presence this morning, all stakeholders present, and you are most welcomed. But I must also indicate to members that we have also received written submissions from 2 other important stakeholders, which is Families for Children and Organization Undoing Tax Abuse. I don't know if I'll spell it correctly, but as they abbreviate, the name of their organization is OTA. They will not be presenting today, but their written submissions, it must be clarified and noted, members, that their written submissions will truly be considered as the discussions goes forward. So I'm going to encourage all of us when we approach today's hearings to have an open mind and a spirit of collaboration. Our goal is to ensure that all the interests of South Africans are represented and that the allocated appropriations address the most pressing challenges we face. I therefore, members, not going to waste any time. I will award each stakeholders 15 to 20 minutes to make their presentations, and presentations will follow each other. After the 3rd presenter, I will then open up for members to maybe engage the presentations made by your good selves, ask clarity questions where necessary, and after that, you will get a chance again to respond to the questions or the comments that will have been made by members, and then we will close our public hearing session. And members, let me also indicate to your good selves that after the public hearing, I am going to request that members stay for 5 to 10 minutes into the meeting so that we adopt the set of meetings that we have for this year, which is the minutes for the previous meeting. Thank you very much, honorable members and colleagues on the platform. I'm not going to waste any time. I'll directly hand over to Youth Capital to start with their presentation. Thank you very much. Over to you. And kindly, I'm going to request that we introduce ourselves as we make submissions. We start with the presentation. The presenter for each stakeholder will introduce themselves. And if maybe they are not alone on the platform, I'll request that they also introduce those that are in the platform and maybe open the videos so that members can see who are we talking to. But if you have a network problem, just on your introduction, that open the video and then you can close it again when you present. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Morning, Chair. Our camera, we have some issues with our camera, but this is Clotilde Angelucci and
It's Nape Sinong. Thank you, Chair.
we are from Youth Capital. Lubababo, can you share our slides?
Mr. Nodada, Estelle.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Great. Thank you so much, Chair. So without wasting any precious time, thanks so much for having us today and for listening to our submission. Can we go to the next slide? So Youth Capital is a campaign, independent campaign that advocates for youth-centered and evidence-based solutions to youth unemployment. And our work is to really identify and shine a light on the roadblocks that hold young people back from making an income and participating into the economy. And we drive solutions by collaborating with young people, civil society, and decision makers. Next slide. So we all know that the NDP, the National Development Plan 2030 is what really drives the work of government, but we know that we're very far from their targets. So the NDP, one of the NDP targets is a fall in the strict unemployment rate from 25% to 14% and 6% by 2030. We currently have a narrow definition of unemployment that sits at 32.9, with young people facing the brunt of the crisis with 45.5. We had a vision of having about 11 million additional jobs by 2030, and we're still shedding jobs. And we also know that even when the economy grows, jobs are not created for young people. And then one of the targets of the NDP is that the public employment programs had the vision of creating 2 million opportunities annually by 2020. So we have, with the addition of the presidential employment stimulus, we've created over 1.2 million opportunities since 2020. And in 2023, the three public employment programs, so EPWP, CWP, and PES, created together 1.8 million work opportunities to improve livelihoods. But funding for PEPs is not really ring-fenced, so this is about to change. So looking at the next slide, I am sure that all the honorable members and the colleagues here will know that unemployment is a key social policy and economic issue, and we know that it drives poverty, inequality, and several other socioeconomic challenges. 50% of South Africa's working class population is under the age of 35 and it's unemployed. And we have 9.8 million young people that really can't find any touch points either in education, employment, or the training scene. And going back to the NDP, that NDP advocates for the social protection of work, and the employment creation is the most impactful form of social protection. So if we go to the next slides, ahead of elections, most political parties created job creation, and the president promised to expand public employment programs, which we quote, provided income, work experience, and skills development to many young unemployed people. And the stats says that 8 in 10 young unemployed people have never done formal work before. So going to the next slide, fiscal consolidation by National Treasury has actually led to 13.7 billion rand in cuts across all public employment programs during the February budget. And as you might imagine, this has severely impacted work and livelihood opportunities. Something in the specific that happened in the February budget is that for the year 2024-2025, the Basic Education Employment Initiative was to be funded by the UIF reserve funds, but the UIF has actually withheld the funds without any explanation. So just moving to the next slide, just a refresher, the Basic Education Employment Initiative is the largest program that's part of the Presidential Employment Stimulus, and has placed 860,000 education assistants and general assistants in 23,000 schools across the country. But next slide. But since the announcement of the UIF funds to be dispersed, no details at all have been shared. And when Youth Capital approached the acting DG, we were told that more details will be shared in due course, but it's December. We still don't know what is happening. So this has made the BEI dormant in 2024 and made a rise in spam vacancies shared across social media and WhatsApp groups. And as a result, 200,000 short-term opportunities were lost in schools across the country, in a country with one of the highest unemployment rates. And yeah, so just to look at some of the numbers, without the UIF funds, the PES was reduced by 6.4 billion. The EPWP had a budget decreased by 3.1 billion, and the CWP decreased by 4.3 billion. And the 2024 budget had no funding in the medium term for PES. So we say that 1.8 million work opportunities were created by PES in 2023. In 2024 will be 900,000. So these opportunities do give some livelihood support. We traveled to Botshabelo and we spoke to Belile, who worked as a general assistant until September 2023. And he now uses the school grounds to sell vegetables to the community. There's also Nonto, who was a graduate that participated in the BEI Phase 1 in Mpumalanga, and now she works as a marketing coordinator at an NGO in Cape Town. So this is just a reminder that access to work is not linear. So moving to the next slide, we know that further research by Saldry confirms that the BEI does support broader economic activities. So the spending that young people receive with their salaries does not just disappear in the economy. And we know that food insecurity is a massive issue in South Africa, since 6 in 10 households are financially insecure. So in an economy with a projected growth of 1.1%, the BEI has shown to have the potential to generate growth conducive to jobs. So just to conclude to our next slide, we need to know what happened to the UIF. We need to investigate what went wrong between National Treasury and UIF, why the funds have not been dispersed without any accountability. We also know that public employment programs provide employment for young people, and more funding is required. We can't just have 1 year funding. It's not sustainable. Because of deep youth unemployment crisis, National Treasury should consider youth unemployment reduction as a goal of fiscal policy and not fiscal consolidation. And then in the long run, we believe that we should do a systematic review of all public employment initiatives to assess the longer term employment pathways created. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was sweet and short. I will now hand over to Mr. Nodada. I think you will be assisting us in putting all the presentations on the screen without presenters requesting you to do so. Let's go to Breadline Africa.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity. I'll wait for the slides. Thanks. So we can go on to the next slide. I'm going to give you a brief introduction on Breadline Africa. So we were established in 1993, making us 31 years old this year. It's a non-profit organization specializing in ECD infrastructure. Sorry. Perfect, thank you. So I am Warren Povey. I head up the strategic partnerships at Breadline Africa. So I work closely with government and non-government partners. And this is to ensure that when we work with an ECD, the ECD is covered with the nurturing care. And again, I just want to welcome the opportunity to share our concerns and for you to hopefully make some adjustments accordingly. Thank you. Next slide. So what is the issue? So the challenge in the midterm budget statement is that we're losing our youth dividend to unequal ECD opportunities, the gaps in nurturing care, and ECD prevent children from reaching their full potential. I mean, the solution is easy on paper, and that's prioritizing nurturing care, universal ECD, and equitable resource allocation. The problem is the budgets do not give any effect to the commitments President Ramaphosa promised in the 7th administration. If you actually read, or I'm sure you have, I don't mean it in that way. When you read the midterm budget policy statement, children is not mentioned once. I had to reread it a few times just to make sure. But to prioritize and to ensure resourcing of these services for child development, we need to unlock our youth dividend. Children, their development and their early development are not recognized as a priority. And the current funding models and the narrative focus on a narrow ECD center, on a narrow model, neglecting the holistic nurturing care. Our ask is to direct the Ministry of Finance to realign this, to give effect to the 7th administration promise by President Ramaphosa to prioritize universal ECD and amend fiscal frameworks to prioritize nurturing care, parenting framework, and early interventions. Thank you. So as we all know, 7th administration made some promises, and that's to universalize ECDs, focus on the first 1,000 days of life, provide a core suite of services, nutrition, health, parenting support, and safety, and align the budgets to support this. So we've obviously missed a few opportunities along the way, and children's development is absent from these priorities. The budget narrowly focuses on subsidies for ECD centers, ignoring the broader nurturing care needs. Health, social development, and local government roles in ECDs remain underfunded or unfunded. The invisibility has made it a bit difficult to track these changes or in the resource allocations. So this is an assumption. So what is the impact? The impact is we need to set the stage for a statewide pattern of resourcing. It neglects children and their development, and as a result, provincial and local funding inaccuracies and inequities will persist. Resources will not be available for delivery, and fueling intergenerational exclusions, poverty, and inequality. Thanks. So if we look at the two graphs below, we'll see that there's definitely unequal service delivery. On the bottom left graph, Q1, quintile 1 to quintile 5, this just explains the haves versus the have-not. The haves on the right are more on track than the have-nots on the left, who are at 38% on track. The graph on the right just shows you that even in the highest province of 65%, a third of our children are still falling behind in the highest province. I'm not here to name or shame provinces because I think this is a national problem. So provincial and local governments, they lack the resources to address this. Inequities in development outcomes disproportionately affect marginalized communities, as you can see in the bottom left. And our call to action is to amend this, amend these allocations to address the nurturing care gaps now, before we get to the 2025 budget and we have to do this again. And provide clear directives to prioritize comprehensive ECD services. Just to give you some context, Breadline Africa focus on infrastructure to ensure that they have a safe building to sit in. Our sitting Cape Town today and I see the rain coming down, and I dread some of the children that have to sit in centers with holes all over it and buckets catching water. That's our focus, but that's where my job comes in, is to bring partners on board to ensure that we have nurturing care covered, nutrition, safety, health. Perfect, thank you. So what needs to change? Parliament's leadership role, which I'm sure you're all aware, I don't need to tell you what to do. You're there for a reason. And that's to amend this national fiscal priorities to align with the 7th administration's commitments based on the mandate for children. Ensure that health, social development, and local government receive sufficient funding for comprehensive ECD services. What can be done? Well, we can interrogate the omissions of the midterm budget policy statement, provide directives for the Ministry of Finance to ensure we close these gaps. And I think a key statement is to ensure that provinces don't follow this midterm budget policy statement and do not replicate the omissions. Thank you. So just some supporting evidence to show why ECD is so important. Our human capital index is at 0.3 at the moment, 0.43 at the moment. And you can see it's way behind the global average of 0.56. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but 60% are being left behind in South Africa. Only 4 out of 10 children have a chance. Our human capital index has been stagnant for 10 years. Budgets have increased, but this hasn't moved. So for me, that might state that the budgets aren't being spent in the right areas. And again, that's an assumption. To change this, we must invest early and more comprehensively. According to Heckman, you can see the curve on the right. By investing early, we could see modest returns of 7%, but that could almost double to 13% if comprehensive ECD support is provided from conception until schooling. I mean, I've got a few other stats here for you which I'm sure you're aware as well, is that 50% of South African children drop out from when they start preschool to when they finish grade 12. 50% do not make it. Sorry, someone took the slides off. And 80% cannot read for meaning by grade 4. These are scary numbers. And I actually read an article yesterday that grade 5s in South Africa are ranked the lowest globally for reading. And these all come back to that Heckman curve of let's invest earlier. So in conclusion, I hope to answer 3 things: who, what, and why. Who? Everyone in that room, everyone in this room at the moment, you are the who. Don't accept this midterm budget policy statement and ensure that the 2025 budget reflects the need of South African children. The what? Our human capital index. That's why. Our 7th administration promise, and the provinces that have the say to allocate the budget to our ECDs. And the why is our children, our communities, and our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Warren. You were very spot on. And it's interesting that both the presentations are very short and they go straight to the point. Kosatu, kindly come in.
Morning, Chair, morning, members. Let me just upload our document quickly. We can share from our side quite easily. Let me introduce myself, Chair. My name is Matthew Parks from the Congress of South African Trade Unions. And just to give thanks for giving us some space just to share some of our views on the 2 bills and the MTBPS. Chair, and I know we might sound like a broken record player, but look, it's because of the nature of budget cycles. We don't expect things to change overnight. We know issues carry through over medium-term expenditure framework, etc. But we had really hoped for a much more decisive MTBPS we appreciate it's not a new budget, it's a tweaking of existing. But when we look at, the MTPS and the two bills, we really hope to see a bit more interventions by the state to really stimulate the economy, to continue to rebuild the state's capacity, to really help to reduce unemployment, create jobs, and of course to reinforce the fight against crime and corruption. And we just felt overall, Chair, in the MTPS and the two bills, especially the Appropriation Adjustment Bill, there was not really much new, and this is in spite of a struggling economy. Chair, I think all the indicators are in the elections, which any election you take, even the by-elections, society's patience isn't limitless. And it's critical that we do give hope to a very despondent nation. We think government does need to be seen to be driving the economy, to be delivering, and that workers, do fear fixation that the state on simply reducing the wage bill, actually is just going to leave them deeper in debt and having to cover rising vacancies across key frontline public services. Chair, we also, have to state that we have a nearly 42% unemployment rate. And in the previous 3 quarters, leave aside the most recent quarter, it actually had risen. We have a 70% youth unemployment rate. And over the MTEF, government speaks about, at best, a 1.7% GDP growth rate. And that's really not going to kind of create the jobs you need to reduce unemployment, let alone to absorb young people entering the labor market every year. And again, that means we're going to see poverty and inequality levels being entrenched. We are seeing many municipalities really struggling to provide basic services. We are seeing public services equally overwhelmed by vacancies. I think we've seen many of our SOEs in serious trouble, despite efforts of government to turn them around, and despite some progress, for example, at ESCOM. But also, Chair, we really do see crime and corruption increasingly entrenched. We see many of our critical economic infrastructure under severe strain. So I think, Chair, where we kind of differ on the MTPS with colleagues in government is that we agree you must manage the debt. You can't continue the debt trajectory, which has basically nearly tripled in the past decade. That threatens the state's sovereignty, etc. It threatens the transformation project of 1994. But I think for us, where we differ is that we think the way to address that is to grow the economy, to stimulate it, to rebuild the state, not simply just to slash expenditure. So, we need to grow the economy, we need to help businesses take off, we need to reduce unemployment, and also rebuild the capacity of the state, because that is critical to any growing economy, and that includes SOEs, because the economy depends upon them to grow. So, Chair, if we accept a 1.7% GDP growth rate over the next 4 years, then it means we also accept an unemployment rate of 40% plus. And I think that is our single greatest national crisis. You can't sustain a society where 4 out of 10 people or 7 out of 10 young people can't find work. We have seen, Treasury cutting budgets, cutting expenditure for years. It's not a recent experiment, and it hasn't delivered. If we look at successful industrial economies around the world, which have managed to weather storms, whether it's the US or China, etc., they've stimulated the economy, and that has helped, generate the taxes you need, whether it's company taxes or income taxes or VAT, etc., to fund the state, to fund public services, to reduce the debts, and that's simply what we're arguing for. Chair, we know that in any budget, wage bill, like with any workplace, is always going to be the largest item. Your human assets always, any workplace, is public or private's greatest asset. But we think there's a lot of mythology around the public service wage bill in the body politic. People will say that the state is bloated. Yet if we just take the facts, in 1994, when you had 34 million South Africans, we had just over 1 million public servants. Today, the population has almost doubled to 64 million, and the public service headcount has not doubled. It's barely grown to about 1.2 million, of which you normally have about 70,000 unfilled vacancies. We've seen a really high vacancy rate affecting service delivery, whether it's amongst teachers, amongst police, health, or home affairs. It's a bit difficult to shout at Home Affairs when we are told they have a 60% vacancy rate. Even if it's less than that, we can't be surprised. You have long queues, yet if you go to the counters, half of the positions are not filled. Similarly, we have nurses filling 2 or 3 vacant positions. Chair, people will say, well, then the wage bill is out of control. If you compare the wage bill as a part of the budget, it has been stable at 35% of the budget for the past 15 years. And in the past 2 years, with below inflation increases, the 2020 wage freeze, unfilled vacancies, the wage bill has declined by about 10%, so to 31% of the budget. So it's shrinking, it's not growing. People would say that, well, look, public sector, they get paid more than the private sector. Again, it's difficult to compare apples to oranges, Chair, because the public sector doesn't employ farm workers or domestic workers or mine workers. It doesn't employ, construction workers, etc. Those the private sector employs. Public sector, it's 178,000 police officers, 350,000 teachers, there's 20,000 doctors, etc. So it makes more sense to compare what a doctor makes in the public sector to what they make in the private sector. Then you'll see the wage gap actually favors the private sector. But Chair, there also is a danger strategically if you continue to impose below inflation increase in the public sector. What you do is that you fill a brain drain of skilled public servants to better paying, less stressful jobs in the private sector and overseas. So you find, doctors going to Canada, nurses going to Dubai, you find teachers going to New Zealand, even our police officers going to Australia. And yet, if we want to develop the quality public service society, especially workers depend upon, then we need warm bodies to fill those positions. We were quite disappointed, Chair, that we had hoped in the Adjustment Appropriation Bill to see some sort of resolution to the 2,400 plus Western Cape teachers' jobs, which are now at risk. And instead, we saw silence. So proposals here, Chair, really was about government should go and engage with the PSABC around its early retirement packages to make sure it doesn't have a detrimental effect on the state's capacity to deliver, doesn't lose skilled persons, doesn't worsen the headcount ratio to the customer ratio, so to speak, or the learner and patient ratios. We should be seeing what frontline vacancies we can prioritize to fill to resolve the Western Cape teachers crisis. But also, Chair, holistically, we need roadmaps to modernize, to rebuild frontline public services. And if the state does want to reduce headcounts, then let them reduce the number of councillors we have, the number of public representatives, or the size of cabinet we have, because then it appears there is no cost constraints. Chair, I think on the special appropriation bill, which just contains 2 items, we welcome both of them. The 38 million rand for the Department of Justice for the ICJ case in defense of the rights of the Palestinian people to be protected from genocide, from ethnic cleansing by Israel. And, in fact, government may even want to consider suing for libel for some persons who had said that the state had been funded by countries overseas, which is not true. I think we also want to really applaud governments led by the president effort to conclude the e-toll saga, and the 5 billion rand to end that is a welcome conclusion of that chapter. But we do need a holistic approach to how to fund road infrastructure, etc., without repeating the e-toll saga. Chair, I think this is some of the specific departments. We've seen many frontline services really struggling with declining budgets, vacancy posts being frozen, the brain drain, the aging infrastructure. And society benefits from well-functioning public services. We really hope to see some plans to rebuild the state, especially frontline ones. So there are concerning cuts in the appropriation adjustment bill. A cut of 10 million rand when we still got funding NHI. Cuts for salaries for the lower courts of 257 million rand. Cuts to the police service salary bill of 1.5 billion rand. And this is in the police service, Chair, which has declined by about 15% in the headcount over the past decade. Yet population has grown, crime has remained very stubborn and high. We've seen cuts of nearly 400 million rand for land reform for emerging farmers support. And Chair, as part of the business rescue package agreed through a court order with the state and in previous budgets, there's meant to be a 3.4 billion rand financial relief package for the post office. 1.7 billion rand tranche was meant to have reached them by the end of November, hasn't reached them yet. Treasury is talking about only doing that in April next year. and that threatens the liquidation of the post office, which is already hanging on for dear life. And the Sixth Parliament had passed both the post office and the post bank amendment bills, trying to repivot and give a post office a fighting chance. So that's one intervention we really hope Parliament can take up. But there are positive parts too as well, Chair. Nearly 700 million rand for disaster relief, 1.5 billion rand for civic service modernization and home affairs, some additional funding for the two education departments for infrastructure for TVETs, the SOD grants adjustments for inflation earlier this year. And of course, we do support the 1.7 billion rand for the Defence Force deployments across the continent. There are some allocations for courts, for goods and services, just over 200 million rand. And there are some allocations for goods and services for the police, for stations, for visible policing, for detectives of 1.4 billion. And, 168 million for informal settlements, upgrading, and 243 million for water infrastructure, for bulk upgrades. So those are positive, Chair. But again, when one looks at the performance targets of the departments, we see many key ones behind, whether it's water sanitation, it's basic education, it's agriculture, land reform, around key targets, significantly far behind. We're, getting towards the end of the financial year. Equally, Chair, Parliament, the Sixth Parliament, and Treasury have done a lot of work to help ensure we emerge from a grey listing, which has a detrimental effect on our ability to attract investment. Yet if we don't give the police, the courts, the NPA the resources they need, then we're going to struggle. We're meant to emerge from grey listing. We hope either, I think, is it March or April, if not September, October next year. But the key thing we haven't done is to kind of ensure we reinforce these institutions. So, Chair, we do think there's a need in the Seventh Parliament to really hold departments accountable for their targets for expenditure. And again, to hold departments accountable for how they're going to rebuild, modernize the state institutions. And specifically, Chair, I think the appeal for the select committees is around intervention with the post office to ensure it receives its 1.7 billion rand. This is an issue we've raised with the respective ministries, with the presidency. We hope Parliament can also help push on it. Chair, I think also other critical things that there's a huge infrastructure program. It's slightly reinforced in the adjustment appropriation bill, especially on key OCEs like Eskom and Trans and Metro Rail departments. And again, I think there's need to make sure those ones spend that money. We think we do need to have a conversation, Chair, when we get to the next budget on what can we really put in place a stimulus fund for SMEs? Can we take a different approach to DTIC to really begin to invest significantly in industrial financing for manufacturing, for exporting industries, to begin to shift the needle towards creating jobs in these sectors? We do think we need to have a bit of a roadmap for the SED grant to reach the food poverty line. It is a foundation for BIG, it's one of the major achievements of the ANC administrations, but we also need to link as participants to skills and employment opportunities. Chair, we're glad that I think it was at Youth Capital just before us raised the issue of the presidential promise stimulus. We've been raising that for quite some time. It's been a very critical intervention by government. And we've been amazed and just shocked how we've allowed this budget to be cut from about 36 billion rand at a peak. I think currently it's about 3.5 billion rand. We should actually be seeing how can we increase it by April to take 1 million young people on board, and by October next year to take 2 million young people on board. It's a useful roadmap to help young people get the skills and experience and confidence whilst earning a salary, and hopefully to allow them to enter the labor market as well. So, Chair, I think that's our key one proposal there, and of course around the SOD grant as well. Chair, I think we do want to commend government getting towards the end around the turnaround of SOEs, especially Eskom, but Eskom remains fragile. And I think one key task we want to encourage the NCP in this administration really is around the municipal debt owed to Eskom. You would have seen that this past 2 weeks, Eskom has signed agreements with Tshwane and Joburg municipalities. And combined, they owe about Eskom, I think, about 8 billion rand. That's about 10% of the debt owed to Eskom. Eskom has received a very important debt relief package of 253 billion rand from the state. That's not going to achieve its objectives if we continue to allow municipalities to default to Eskom. We do think there is a need for a new funding model for municipalities, because it's clear that some, like Maluti or Pafong, are just simply we'll never be able to pay that money back. But we need to move to a system where people pay for ESCOM, and we don't use ESCOM to subsidize chaos in local government. We need a holistic approach. Chair, there is good work at Transnet. It's far better than what it was a year ago when it was in free fall. But again, more support and more urgency to really help it unlock your mining, your manufacturing, agricultural sectors, because that brings jobs to the economy, it brings taxes to the state, it enables businesses to take off. We're similarly around Metro Rail, we've seen good progress reopening it. But again, if we can give it more support, because that helps to boost the urban economy, it makes it much cheaper for workers to get to work, etc. Boost workplace productivity. Chair, and I think some of the interventions there is around cable thefts, vandalism, etc. But we hadn't seen really new plans to assist Denel, post office or postback, and I think that for us was a disappointing point. So again, I think here point Chair, just simply let's accelerate our support for ESCOM, for Transnet. Those are our two greatest economic assets, and especially Transnet needs significant support. And I think similarly to our Metro Rail, Denel, SABC, Post Office, Postbank, etc. If you can unlock these, Chair, then the economy will really see about 2% added to GDP growth rate. Chair, I think there was a very interesting presentation by the RAF about 2 days ago. And the RAF has liabilities of about 400 billion rand, Chair. It's been basically looted by persons, and its chaos has really imploded it. And we'll really hope to see Parliament kind of putting pressure on the Department of Transport to help ensure it retables the RAF and the RABS bills to enable the RAF to move from being a burden to the economy and being dependent upon the fuel levy to really be an asset to society. Chair, I know lastly, just getting to the end, hope I'm still in the time frames, but be done quickly. Members would ask correctly, where do you get the money for the shopping list of demands, Kosatu? We think, SARS has shown you that you can rebuild the state. If you appoint competent management, you remove criminal elements, you fill key vacancies, you invest in the capacity of the institution. And we've seen the results. Tax compliance has increased at SARS from 61 to 64%. That's been an additional, 60 billion rand revenue annually to the state. If we could have an agreement with SARS to, let's say, how do we get to 70% tax compliance within the next 2 years? That would generate an additional 120 billion rand, not new taxes, of existing taxes owed to the state. And that can ease the pressure on the state and really help to inject stimulus to where it needs to go in the economy. We do think we need to see how can we ease tax burden on low-income workers, and also to ensure that Treasury moves on the President's commitments to reduce the fuel taxes, extend VAT exemption for essential items, etc. So I think that's our two proposals around SARS, but SARS, Chair, can be the engine of the success of the state and the revival of society like it was in the Mandela and in Mbeki administrations, when the late Commissioner, Comrade Pravin Gordhan, really did excellent work in those two administrations. So Chair, just in conclusion, we don't think we have endless time to turn things around. We have seen green shoots. We need to exploit them, but we shouldn't be complacent. Really, when you see workers, the families are really struggling, they're battling to cope. We don't think we continue to have this kind of laissez-faire, business as usual approach of Treasury. And yes, we must reduce the debt, but the solution to doing that is to grow the economy, to create jobs, to rebuild the state, not simply to slash expenditure to frontline services. So we hope, Chair, in February we'll see a really bold, decisive budget that finds the right balance, that doesn't weaken the state's capacity to deliver the services that the economy depends. And we do hope that Treasury will take up our offer for engagements that net like between government, business, and labor to really see how can it come with a package of high impact interventions for the next financial year. But let me stop there, Chair, and I apologize if I took more time, but thanks for giving me space, Chair.
Thank you very much, Kosatu. I left you to continue because you were eating on other presenters' time, as they were less than the time that was allocated for them. And I took into mind a matter that you are a shop steward, so you will want to be given more time to express your views. Thank you very much for the submission. I must indicate that I'm going to request that I switch my video of colleagues on the platform because I've been experiencing a bit of a network challenge. But I must indicate that all the submissions made by stakeholders today and the proposals made, they will be taken into consideration. And I must agree that we've noted most of the issues raised, and also agree with Youth Capital that it is indeed concerning to note that despite the ambitious target set, we still remain significantly distant from achieving the desired outcomes. The issues that you raised around the alarming statistics that around 8 out of 10 young unemployed individuals are aged between 15 and 34, it raises up eyebrows to say, as the people, as the current generations, do we really have a plan for those generations that comes after us? And I also noticed and I also noted that Breadline Africa, it is also concerning that there's an absence of children's development from the current MTBPS priorities. Because where I am sitting, this is a missed opportunity that really requires our immediate attention. It is also dependent on us, on how we shape the future of our country. And the future of our country, we are talking even those that are still at a very young age, at a very tender age. It is our responsibility to map the future for them. So it really lies in our hands. As this committee, also as members of this committee, as we engage in these discussions today, I'm going to employ to all members to consider the long-term implications of neglecting our children's development, because this is seriously a worrisome issue. And if really our budget prioritizations continue to overlook these critical areas, we honestly are facing the risk of perpetuating inequality and exclusion that will affect generations to come. Kosatu, we also note your submissions. You are with us, and some of the issues, as you mentioned, they come every time before you come to the committee. It really indicates the seriousness of the matter, and looking at how things are in our country, something really needs to be done, and the time to do those things is now. We can't delay it any further. I'm going to give members to make their own submissions, to ask any clarity on the presentations that have been put before them, and will also allow you 3 to 4 minutes each presenter to respond to questions or comments that are made by members. Can I get an indication from members who want to engage on the presentations? I see the hand of Honorable Brett, Honorable Kweza, Honorable Ryder, Honorable Majola. Honorable Ngumalo will be the last. In that order, colleagues, Honorable Brett.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good morning to all members present, and also to the people who presented. I am Henny Brits. I am a member of Parliament in the NCOP, and I am also a member of this committee, and I'm a permanent delegate from the Eastern Cape. Now, first of all, I want to start with the presentation by Kosatu and Mr. Matthew Parks. I think at this stage, Mr. Parks is very quickly becoming an ad hoc member of this committee. Mr. Parks, thank you very much for your presentation today. The gist of your presentation is much in line with what we've been advocating in this committee. I want to go to your proposal on your presentation on the revenue. I think, Mr. Parks, you will be glad to hear that your proposal regarding the reduction in fuel taxes and to extend VAT exemptions for essential foods and other goods is precisely in line. And from home there, I thought you were quoting me from my declaration that I made in this regard 2 days ago. So thank you for supporting me in that endeavor to get more food items exempted, fuel taxes reduced, When it comes to your public service wage bill and your presentation, I do agree with where you come from, that 1 million public service officials were employed for 34 million citizens. That was 1994. And now there are only 1.2 million for 64 million citizens, with 70,000 unfilled vacancies. One aspect that we need to remember, and it needs to be addressed, is that the increase in public service wage bill is the increase that was out of proportion in salaries of public servants since 1994. At this stage, there are more than 55,000 public servants who earn more than 1 million rands per annum. And I think maybe we should address this at one stage or another, and rather sooner than later. But thank you very much for your presentation today. Coming to Youth Capital and Breadline Africa, thank you very much for both these presentations. You hit the nail on the head with both presentations, especially Breadline Africa. Your comments regarding the centre administration is welcomed. Provincial and local impact is precisely the core of our function as the NCOP. And your appeal to this select committee is heard very clearly and will surely be considered in the 2025-2026 budget. Also, it is aligned with Youth Capital's proposal and presentation, and I also welcome the proposals made by Youth Capital. One aspect that I would like to hear Youth Capital especially on is, how do they propose, can we create jobs, especially for young people who are entering the job market? And in this regard, new and innovative, sustainable proposals will be welcomed. Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you, everybody that is present on this platform.
Thank you, Honourable Brett. In that order, colleagues, members. Mr. Ryder, you may come in.
No,
It's Mr. You may come in.
Thank you very much, Chair. Welcome the presentations. They are comprehensive. As I went through all that, are quite empowering, and also dealing with the issues. You could be clear about what the MTB PS is actually entailing. But thank you very much for your presentations, COSATU and the youth capital and so on. I just wanted to start there, Chair, on the Breadline Africa, by saying that you know, Chair, it is crucial that the foundations are laid at the very, very early age of the childhood. And it is worrisome that there are still omissions into the budgets of the state to omit the fundamentals of the future of the country. Because by so doing, if you consider what Breadline Africa is saying that 50% of South Africa's children, they drop out. Where are they going, these children? They are going back to their poverty. Their parents are poor. They live in shacks, and they are susceptible to crime. If they are not criminals, they will be tenderpreneurs. If they are not tenderpreneurs, they will be killers of the tenders, of those who are securing tenders. and so on and so on. That dispensation of investment into the future of the country goes like that, with the result that even COSATU tells us that the public itself is set to gain a lot from an effective public service. They stand to benefit, Chair. And so I just wanted a clarity-seeking question, not just clarity, Chair, on the issue of early childhood development. I think it's slide 4, when they speak about the underfunding of local municipalities, neglecting children and their development, that they will be invisible at all levels of government financing. In the dispensation of growing up of children, has it been fundamental to them to include the sports facilities and recreational facilities, and also parks, because it is the whole value chain of growing up children in a community? Because where I am, the parks are just done they are not maintained. I mean, they are dusty, there's no one who's coming to irrigate and everything else and so on, which speaks to the compliance issues, maintenance issues, and so on, and post-evaluation issues, which are non-existent. And so I wanted to ask that from Breadline Africa. And then, of course, the issues raised sharply by COSATU as it relates to stimulation of the economy / unemployment, and to rebuild the state capacity. What is your explanation, COSATU, of the state capacity? Because now we often hear about there's an overrated, if you like, reliance of investors that do not often come, and that often ask the country. It's often questioning the country's stability all the time, when the country has been stable politically, and has demonstrated this since 1994, with the result that without the state intentional capacity building and the deindustrialization that we have seen since 1994, we don't have an industry at the scale of Eskom since 1994 to create sustainable jobs, and therefore to create a revenue for municipality in an industrialization that has been localized to create sustainable jobs there. And the last question pertaining to the youth, they spoke about the CWP. They counted the CWP and EPW as created jobs. I thought that those programs, both of Public Works and of COGTA, are safety nets. People go in, they gain experience and so on. They are able to do their CVs, and then they look for jobs and stuff like that. So how is it that such a thing is counted as? I know that there are people who are getting old there with nothing to show actually in those programs. They don't have houses, they don't have dignity, they don't have anything. They don't seem to get the jobs that are set to spring out of these trainings and programs of the organizations. And the last question to COSATU, as I close, Chair, they speak about the Eskom debt. I know that businesses, as of first municipalities, as of April 2024, owed Eskom 75 billion. But if you look at the amount of money that is owed to municipalities by business is much greater than the money that is owed to Eskom, which means it can be maximally collected to deal with that debt. And this does not seem to come true. And national departments, they owe 8 billion, provincial developments 9.8 billion, others, and the other entities and water boards and so on. You can go into that dispensation and find out. It's public information. What is your view of this dispensation as it persists in terms of these bills that are proposed here, and the omissions that have been made, including in the Western Cape? You are citing that they are threatening to retrench workers. You know, in the EFF, we are very passionate about workers, Chair, because workers such as mine workers, teachers, nurses, and so on, they bore children that will ultimately be something in life. And if we are seeing these things, that the money that is appropriated does not include such dispensation of workers into their children, into their future, then we are not a country, we are a banana republic. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Keza. Honorable Prep. Honorable Ryder.
Good morning, Chairperson. Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity. Yeah, it looked like Honorable Keza had a halo behind him there. I wonder if he's been canonized. Good morning to the presenters, and thank you very much for the time taken. Nice to see some new faces coming before this committee. And I'd like to say that I think some of the content in the presentations today would have been better presented as part of the MTBPS process. And we would have loved to have you here, 2 weeks ago. But please, your attendance is greatly appreciated. And we look forward to engaging with you more. And even though that parts of the presentation would have been better suited to the MTBPS discussion, I do think that there's huge value in each of the presentations that have been put forward today. And I think if I can just maybe emphasize on one particular point for now, and it also came through in the written submission from Families for Children, is that there needs to be a better focus on funding children from a health point of view and from an education, self-development point of view, right from birth right until they leave school. And I think this is going to be the solution to taking us out of poverty. It is a long-term project, and of course, children don't vote. So politicians hate long-term projects, and they don't do things for people that don't vote for them. But realistically, it's for the benefit of our country that we need to really realign our focus to children and to the future. And certainly, I believe that all of the inputs today were aimed at that and well intended. So thank you for the inputs that you gave there. There's a couple of things I want to pick on specifically. Oh, yes, I also wanted to just mention some of the presenters spoke about the adjustment appropriation not really doing what President Ramaphosa has promised for the 7th administration. And I do think it's appropriate to make the point that the Public Finance Management Act severely constrains what can be done in the adjustment budget. So the mid-year adjustment to the budget is severely constrained by legislation, but it's also fiscally constrained at the moment. The reality is, I think that some of the bigger changes that were signaled that they'd been hoped for, I share your hope that we can find those changes finding expression when we engage in February and the Minister of Finance presents the next main budget, which will be the first real budget of the Government of National Unity. As really all we're doing now is we're trimming the edges of the legacy budget that the 6th Parliament left us with. So, and yes, re-emphasizing the PFMA does constrain us as to what we can do with those. It really is a pity that ACT didn't come and present today, and I think there is huge value to presenting, because it really makes the point go down a lot stronger. And I do want to say that I think that certainly the first question, so it's bullet 1 in their presentation, which really demands an answer. And they're talking about the e-tolls issue, and they're talking about the Gauteng contribution, which has given birth to this contribution. And they're coming at it from a slightly different perspective, or from a slightly different understanding of this from what was presented to us as a committee. So I do think that first question needs to be answered comprehensively. And it just relates, I mean, at the end, it just says, why is the Gauteng contribution for maintenance being used towards debt repayment, and what conditions has National Treasury attached to this bailout? Now, I'm not sure that it's a bailout, but I do think that this needs a response. And I don't think it should be left just because they didn't present to us. I do think it was a written submission, and we certainly need to get some response from Treasury on that particular question. I think that the entire e-tolls issue and the fact that we're sitting with this special appropriation for SANRAL just reminds us that, yes, there is finally a solution. It's not a good solution. And the point is, we should never have been in this place in the first instance, because honestly, there should have been public consultation. The e-toll system should have been properly implemented through proper discussion, evaluation of the different aspects and different options that there were. And if a real proper evaluation had been done, we would never have sat with the e-tolls. Gauteng would never have sat with the problem that they have now, where realistically they're taking money away from delivering services to people now in order to pay back the debt that was incurred in 2010. So yeah, it's not a good solution. The solution that we're busy dealing with now does harm the citizens of Gauteng, and takes money out of service delivery, real service delivery for them. And I think as lawmakers, it's certainly something we need to consider going forward, and not lose sight of the fact that public participation remains an absolutely important aspect of everything that we do as Parliament. Kasatu, thank you very much. A couple of cheap shots in your presentation for a change, but I think, as Honourable Brits mentioned, I think we're in broad agreement. Couple of points that I wanted to just highlight. I think, first of all, you brought up the issue around SARS, and I do think we need to also just remember what SARS said to us when they presented to us. Not only is it a case of they need a little bit more money, but also, and certainly I think their performance needs to be rewarded, because that money will be an investment. I don't think it'll be a case of throwing money into a black hole, like so often happens with the appropriations that we do. But it will be an investment, and will ultimately end up in bringing in or generating more income for the state, and fattening the fiscal purse as a result. But I do think that we also need to remember that SARS has indicated that they do have some concerns around the reliability of the MTEF, so the medium-term expenditure framework, where they are not able to commit readily to multi-year projects because of the fact that they always are worried about these adjustments, either up or down, and never quite certain what they can really rely on and what they can't. And I think it's something that we need to take into account, not only for SARS, but across all of the votes, and ensure that when it does come time for adjustment budgets to happen, that the adjusted estimates of national expenditure are done very prudently, and that the multi-year projects that various departments have undertaken are taken into consideration when these adjustments are processed. The last matter I'd like to address, Chair, is just Kasatu's comments on the wage bill, and that they're asserting again that the public service is not bloated, and I think that even if we were to agree, I think that Kasatu would need to agree that the public, the administration is perhaps incorrectly focused, and there are far too many millionaire managers drawing fat salaries and far too few people delivering frontline services. So I think that whilst the public service may not be bloated, I think that there are areas of it that are bloated and other areas that are understaffed, and perhaps that is what is attracting the negative comments from so many players in South Africa. And I'm fairly certain that Kasatu will agree with my point on that. Chair, again, just an appreciation for the time and effort that went into the submissions today, and an invitation, please come back. We appreciate what you've given us to think about. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ryder. Colleagues on the platform, I think it's important that we note the attendance of Dr. Randani from the National Treasury. I'm sorry that I recognize your presence now, Dr. Randani. Maybe it's important for our stakeholders to note your presence from the National Treasury in this public hearing platform. Having said that, I'll give you an opportunity maybe to say a word or two at the end of the responses from the stakeholders. For now, I'll give to Honorable Machola to make his submissions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Greetings to all presenters, stakeholders, the three stakeholders being Youth Capital, Breadlines, and Kasatu. Madam Chair, I further note the statistics that has been presented regarding the unemployment situation, the current unemployment situation presented by the Youth Capital. Madam Chair, which you rightfully indicated that the figures, the correct figures that are presented before us regarding unemployment, it's further questioning the realistic nature of our NDP 2030 targets, whether will be achievable. But having said that, Madam Chair, hoping that once we see the last version and the implementation side early next year of the MTDP 2024-2029, all these figures will be given an urgent attention it deserved in terms of making sure that we realized the 2020, the 2030 NDP targets. Having said that, Madam Chair, I want to repeat what has been said before by the previous speakers, but just to rephrase what Honorable Keza raised with regards to the EPWP, that question is directed to the Youth Capital, the ones that raise it. Are they regarding these two initiatives, EPWP and CP, whatever, as an initiative that will assist the youth in terms of making sure that we are changing the picture of the unemployment in South Africa? Because I fully concur with the Honorable Keza that these two programs, looking at its nature, are of more of an interim nature than regarding it as a solution in terms of addressing the unemployment, in particular with the youth. I want to check to them because I was hoping that they will, on their recommendation, recommend that as a solution well, we need to revisit the issue of EPWP and the other one, and then as the means of addressing the unemployment. The second question, Madam Chair, it goes to the Breadlines Africa with regards to their concern in terms of the focus we are paying with regards to the early child development. I want to check, because I will align my question with what they've indicated to us, that there is a high percentage of drop up between the grade R and the grade 10. Aligning that, Madam Chair, their focus and their request in terms of us considering appropriating more funds on the early child development. I never had, Madam Chair, their proposals with regards to the middle stages. Well, there is a preschool, there is a grade 1 to grade 12 stage to develop a child. Well, that to me is a chain before we arrive at the conclusion to say that there is a unreasonable number of drop-ups between grade R and grade 12. To check as to, beside, well, I concur with them, that's the very important stage. But with regards to the other stages, preschool, school age, and then the other stages before, we call it a proper adult who can face the challenges of this world. Are they having the plans to support the first stage, to make it sure that the outcomes of a child it is what one is intended to see? And then further, Madam Chair, the Breadline Africa also raised the issue of South Africa being rated as a number one West in the world in terms of reading. Well, it's a question again as to when they were diagnosing that situation, was the issue of the current state of the curriculum. I've have a challenge with the current curriculum, Madam Chair, in all respect in terms of the economic growth, because what's the current curriculum it's telling us is that it produces the product that is unable to respond to the current situation, which is our manufacturing in terms of advancing our economic growth. Just a question with regards to the two, well, the drop-ups, the worst quality reading in the world in terms of the curriculum. That's the question, Madam Chair. The last one, it's not a question again, it's a comment. With regards to COSATU, it's true, I fully concur with Mr. Parker. The issues raised from the COSATU's presentation, really it sounds like a scratch record, but it is really factual and helpful to us when we are looking at these two bills that is in front of us for us to consider. Well, the one question I want to ask, I fully concur with the content of the presentation, but there is one paragraph that COSATU doesn't miss, whether we're dealing with the MTBPS, whether we're dealing with appropriation bill, a special bill, the one that says head counts of the public office bearers. It now raises a question to me, because it sounds as if there is this element COSATU wanted to alert to us as to what really drive COSATU towards this point, because almost all the submission made by the COSATU, there is this paragraph. Are they suggesting that we do audit in terms of public service officers? He is suggesting or suspecting the ghost employees with that regard. Maybe if one can get a clarity as to where COSATU is heading to with this paragraph. So, Madam Chair, one can put the required and necessary attention to this paragraph. It's been presented to us more than 5 times. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Majola. Honorable Numalo, you may come in. Honorable Numalo, are you there? Can I allow Honorable Swart?
Yes, I'm there. I'm trying to open my... okay, I'm fine now. Can you hear me, Honorable Chairperson?
You are very much audible.
Thank you very much. I want to be given a permission not to open my video because I'm still in Acacia. I can maybe get disappointed with your permission, Chairperson. And
you may
maybe
proceed.
Thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to greet your good self and all the honorable members present and also our stakeholders. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I want also to thank the 3 presenters from the youth and also Breadline and COSATU. Chairperson, on the first one, which talked to young people, we are aware of the high percentage of our unemployed young people in our country. It is a challenge. We are also noting the high food basket, which is always going up. Chairperson, but the issue which they have raised here is the decrease of the EPWP and the CWP. It is also a concern because this is where our young people, most of them are getting something to put on the table for their families and their kids. So it is a challenge. Yesterday I saw, it's yesterday or day before, I saw on TV that the petrol price is going up, diesel price is going up. It's also something that is eating out of our pocket. But the issue of decreasing, we note the decrease of EPWP and also the CWP. It won't settle well with the community down there because these are where they get their employment, as I have said. Chairperson, I want to move to Breadline. What I can say is that we are investing in our young people's future as far as education is concerned. So if ever we can lose it there at the young age, it means that our community or our future will be doomed because our young people won't get the necessary education. But my question to them, or maybe before the question, I saw even the global rating to say that South Africa were rated last as far as the maths education is concerned. So it's something, it's a worrying factor. I saw it during the course of the week. So it is a worrying factor to look at this thing, and we are saying really we are at the last as South Africa. It is a worrying factor, it's a question mark. Chairperson, I wanted from Breadline just to outline to me, because they said local government must be given sufficient fund for ECDs. According to my knowledge, ECDs are administered at the Department of Education. They were in the Department of Social Development. So now they have been shifted to the Department of Education. But here they were saying local government must be given sufficient fund for this purpose. I need to be clarified there, Chairperson. The other matter I'm moving to COSATU is to COSATU is true that our economy is struggling. The target that we have set as the economy to say that we want to grow the economy, we are unable to meet it. I saw even the Moody, they were having saying something about our rating as far as the economic rate is concerned. Chairperson, the other issue which I wanted to do is to special appropriation on the 5 billion billion e-tolling billion that has been given to e-tolling. It's to make sure that the issue of e-tolling come to a rest. I think it's something that we have to close that chapter. It's long that it was on our papers day in and day out. So it has come to an end. I think I applaud them on that. The other issue, Chairperson, because we can't be complaining every day. If ever something it's been done correctly, we are applauding it. The issue of the presidential stimulus project, Chairperson, it's something that young people look upon it for any job or any other, maybe in starting of small business. So the decrease in the presidential stimulus, it's a matter of concern also on my side to say that presidential stimuli, it is one of those projects that assist young people to make sure that they grow the economy and also get job opportunities. Chairperson, the issue of SOEs that we are having in South Africa, the SOE, I think that the minister said it very clearly that there will be no bailout for those small state-owned entities that we're having. But what is needed is to make sure that we enhance monitoring on their spending and make sure that they spend according to the book and be able to sustain themselves going forward. Because really, we won't be doing this bailout day in and day out, and that enlarge our debt or bill of the country going forward. So we won't allow to bring bailing out those SOE on a day-to-day emphasis. Chairperson, I want to applaud the ESCOM because as I listened to their performance report, really it shows that they are on par. They are at 70% in terms of making sure that everything goes according to plan. It's a work in progress. I want to applaud them to say that they must soldier on their progress. It's noted and it's commendable. Chairperson, the last issue I want to raise here is the issue of SARS being given more $1 billion, $2 billion. It's also commendable because SARS is our revenue base that is assisting the government to make sure that in terms of revenue, we are going as planned. So I want to commend the Treasury for having making sure that they give more to SARS so that they can be able to continue giving us revenue as much as it is one of those needed as far as now we are having a challenge of our economy going down, but SARS is there. It's something that is positive moving forward. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Numalo. Honorable Swart will be the last.
Chair Lady, I just want to switch on my camera. I don't know if you can see me. And to switch it off again because I'm not feeling well at the moment. But I just want to see it's me behind the laptop. Now, Chair Lady, I really want to applaud. I'm not gonna repeat I'm actually covered with all the questions and I'll not repeat my questions. But Chair Lady and honorable members and also the National Treasury who's on this platform, I think it's high time for us as leadership in this country, and I've said it the last time. I'm sure that, all these people who submitted with the presentations and submissions, the same thing was said now, maybe, the previous administration, also the previous one and the fifth and the fourth one. And up until today, I think sometimes we invite public participation, the public to come and do submissions. And then afterwards, sometimes people feel now it's no use to come and do submissions and we're not moving forward. But I think, Chair Lady, it's time in this 7th administration, really, we need to take these submissions very seriously. All of them are good submissions. The contents is excellent. Some of them, the majority, the points are from all the submissions that was presented. But it's time to listen, not just hear them out. We must start to listen, and not hear to respond, but we really need to listen to the plea of all the submissions and the stakeholders. I really want to express my gratitude to all the stakeholders for this brilliant contributions and submissions, and their unwavering advocacy on behalf of the people of South Africa. Your efforts really to highlight the needs and the challenges faced by our communities out there are critical in driving the better planning and allocation of resources moving forward within the next budget, the new budget 25 and 26, and moving forward. However, Chairperson and honourable members, we must also confront the harsh reality we are living in at this stage. South Africa's fiscal position, I'm here now for a couple of months, but it's everybody can see it and everybody can feel it, everybody can read that our fiscal position is dire, with billions being borrowed every week, every day, to keep the country afloat. And while the call for more funding is understandable, the truth is that the resources are simply not there to meet all the demands. And we must acknowledge, and we must ask ourselves, and I asked this question before, how did we get here? We must admit we are in a difficult place. We are in a stormy sea. We are in a storm. And really, if we don't listen, like to families for children and to Breadline Africa, if we not invest or youth capital, if we not invest in our children, we're not, and we'll never build a better nation. We will never become a healthy nation if we not invest in our children, and that is reality. And then we blame, the economy. Our economy is struggling, and we must ask the question: why is our economy struggling? I really share the views of Honourable Ryder on the wage bill and the e-toll. We shouldn't be here on that. Now, we ask and we blame the economy. Why? Because there's a lack of trust from investors. We really need to sit down and listen to one another. We are struggling and we will struggle to turn this ship around. Although there may be a new crew of members on the deck of this ship now in the 7th administration, the task of turning this ship around is urgent and is formidable. And it is crucial that we all come together, not just as politicians, government officials. We're fighting here for our children. We're fighting here for our young people. We know the unemployment rate. We know the poverty rate. We know the dire needs of our municipalities. We know the state of our SOEs. What are we going to do about it? It's time that we as politicians, the government, it's not only politicians, government officials and stakeholders, but as a united nation, to work collaboratively for real and meaningful change in this beautiful country called South Africa. We need to steel ourselves, honourable members and stakeholders, for the tough years ahead and commit to shared sacrifices and innovative solutions. Yes, we can borrow, we can keep on borrowing every day, but the cost of the debts, it's becoming a challenge for our country. And this is not just a time for us to criticize, but for cooperation and bold action, together with collective effort and a lot of praise, we can work towards the urgent transformation of our beautiful countries, what our beautiful countries so desperately need. Because we must realize it's for tomorrow and the day after, our children and our youth. There is brilliant, the context is brilliant, and I think just we need to listen, to understand, and everything starts with a budget. And if we don't put this in budgets, like in next year, we're not moving forward. I thank you, Chair Lady.
Thank you very much, Honorable Swart. I am going to give some time to the presenters or the stakeholders to respond to all the submissions made by honorable members. Any clarity seeking question might be answered, and members, I hope, because I've given you enough chance to speak on the issues that emanated from the presentations. After these responses, I will give straight to National Treasury and we work towards a closing of our important session of this meeting. I'm going to start with Youth Capital to kindly respond to all the comments and all the questions from members. And I am going to request that towards the end of your responses, you may wrap up with your closing remarks for the questions or for the session. Thank you very much. Youth Capital.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. So my colleague and I are going to respond to the questions that we've received. But Honorable Member Brits asked about a proposal, how do we create jobs for young people? And I think it's really important to present a picture that unemployment or youth unemployment is not just a lack of jobs. So 1 in 2 young people will start grade 1, drop out before matric without any qualifications. 3 in 10 young people still between the ages of 15 and 35 live in households with no one who's employed and can't assist them with funding like pathways into the economy. And 9.8 million young people are not in any form of education, employment, or training. And this condition is incredibly discouraging and draining for young people. They report feeling of loneliness, boredom, depression, and uncertainty about the future. So, the longer young people are out of opportunities, the harder it is to look for work because they're perceived as risky hires. So, interventions to tackle youth unemployment can't just work on the demand of young people, but also what they found in the economy, right? So this is why Youth Capital has put on is giving a lot of importance and priority to public employment programs because they really offer a way for young people to enter the labor market if these opportunities are well designed and well implemented. So I think the issue around EPWP and CWP is that they are implemented at local level, and often we've seen that we want to there's this tendency to wanting to squeeze more labor-intensive opportunities out of the budgets. I think we always need to connect them to social needs in the communities as well as skills that the labor market is looking for, and most of all, we must also look at them as a beacon of hope. How do we keep the hope going in a situation where it's very everybody, and I think Honorable Swartz, you refer to, you can see it everywhere. Young people are hopeless, and we need to provide hope in communities. But this is one lever is actually promoting opportunities into the labor market. But we also see as Youth Capital 2 extra levers that my colleague is going to talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair and honorable members for interrogating our presentation. So the second lever that we think that, it could be quite influential in terms of helping young people to find pathways into opportunity and into work is really focusing on the skills fund, stuff related to the skills fund, ensuring that NSFAS works, and it provides young people with the correct funding that they need, because at the moment, young people are quite, get quite disillusioned by NSFAS. It's either their allowances are paid late, or they are in an appeal process where they don't, actually have an answer to know what's going on with their applications. And also just ensuring that our TVETs work. We do know that in our country, a lot of people try to go through the academic route of universities. We don't have enough universities, and also sometimes universities do not give people the skills that are in demand. So ensuring that our TVETs work, and also ensuring that all of the money that we pour into the SETAs actually is impactful to young people's lives. We have a lot of SETAs that are working in silos, and a lot of money is going into the SETAs, and we don't know what's going on. And then the last advocacy point at Youth Capital that we really are on is ensuring that young people are enabled to be able to start their own businesses, or can be, self-employed or employ others, basically. So creating an ecosystem, reducing the red tape, where young people are able to start their own businesses or be self-employed, so that they can, find opportunities. At the moment, a lot of young people, as my colleague shared, it's not a linear path into employment. Sometimes when young people are not in employment, they start their own businesses, but this is survivalist, because they don't have a lot of support from the state. And just focusing on these three, we think that we can really find pathways for young people to find opportunities of work and to earn money. So public employment programs, just focusing on those, ensuring that they are funded for at least 3 years, and also just doing a review on the existing programs so that they are consolidated and we know what works and we know what doesn't work. And then just focusing on skills, ensuring that our SETAs and NSFAS works. And then the last one, just ensuring that the young people have a conducive environment where they can start their own businesses and be supported by the state while they're starting their own businesses or trying to find self-employment.
And just a final note, Chairperson, like on economic growth, we're very well aware of the constrained situation of the fiscus and the high debt servicing costs. But we desperately need not just economic growth, we need high quality economic growth that can really provide resilience in communities. We've seen the impact of the climate crisis and how it's changing the nature of jobs. We have seen the impact of technology on shedding of jobs, for example, in the finance sector. So I think the goal of National Treasury shouldn't be to finance debt, but to actually provide growth that can make the economy grow and ensure that people have money to spend, taxes to pay, and meet the dire socioeconomic needs that our communities face. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Youth Capital. I'll hand over to Breadline Africa.
Thank you, Chair Lady, and thank you, honourable members. Firstly, I just want to acknowledge Honourable Brits, Rada and Swart. Your comments are appreciated and noted, and across the board, the passion on all members that have spoken for children, for South Africa. I am going to try and recall as many as I can. Honourable Cesar, he mentioned that ECDs is not just the school. I might be paraphrasing, but it's the community, it's the fields, it's the watering, the ensuring that children have space. And in a response to this is we have two projects at the moment that we're working on. One is a government-focused project, and the other one is a private partnership with another foundation, where we agree that an ECD is just a building that's open from 9 a.m. till maybe 1 p.m. Then what happens to that building? That building should be the community's building. So we are looking at not moving away from helping individual ECDs where they need a classroom or a kitchen or a toilet, but rather building a ECD center for the community of 6 classrooms, bringing ECDs from the area in a close proximity together to forming one business. So, for example, with the private foundation, we're looking at developing part of that ECD center into an internet cafe, a community hall where birthdays, weddings can be held in the village. So it will be more than just an ECD center. It will be the community center. It will have a sports field. It will have indoor and outdoor play areas. So children can feel safe after 1 p.m. Because we are dealing with children going home and not being safe in their homes when they leave. So on the other hand is the government structure, where we're looking at supplying offices to government offices such as SASSA, such as Home Affairs, mobile clinics, where this ECD will be more than that. So we are looking at developing new strategies and not just being a classroom, but being a community center with sports fields that can be looked after and maintained, and hopefully creating a self-sustainable business for the people running this school. I hope that answers that question. Honorable Majola, so the stats are 80% of South African children cannot read for meaning in grade 4. I was a naughty child, but I was sent to the back for other reasons. These children are being sent to the back and eventually leaving school, because if they cannot read, they cannot keep up, and the teachers also will then start giving up on them. So that's unfortunately a stat, and then that leads to our grade 5s, which is maths is the lowest globally. So you asked what are the plans for the early stages. Well, the plans are in the ECDs that we help. We work with partners who either supply teaching material, who either upskill the teachers themselves from a quintile 1 to a quintile 4. So we don't just work with an ECD, build them a classroom and leave. We make sure that these teachers are prepared for what they need to teach. We ensure that the students have reading material, play area, a safe sick bay in case they're not feeling well, a kitchen to feed them, because all of this leads to a child learning. A hungry child won't learn. A sick child won't learn. And we know that when a child misses school, it's not just the child. The parent misses work. The parent misses out an opportunity to earn money. So the plan is, it's a well-developed plan because we have these partners that cover all the 5 components of the nurturing care framework. We don't just build and leave. We build and we ensure that this principal can run the business sustainably. The teachers can teach, and so on. I hope that answers that question. And then Honorable Malloy, with regards to the local resources that you asked for some clarity, I mean, I'm happy to mail you separately.
Okay.
After doing a bit of research to deep dive into the workings of local government. So my personal experiences with local government have not been the greatest. And that's often the biggest hurdle that we have to over to district manager level. There's no assumptions behind it, but that is where we get stopped. We get stopped from local planning. We get stopped from local managers of districts who do not want us to go ahead because it's not what they have brought to the table. And that's where I hopefully come to this forum. And this is my first time here. I do honestly appreciate the time to be given to submit. I also hope that I could maybe be included in future in other submissions. But again, I appreciate your passion for children, because unfortunately, without investing in the children, we're going to be in this conversation every year. Unemployment's going to be going up. So hopefully we can look to invest in the future by investing in the now. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the responses. Kosatu.
No, thanks, Chair, and thanks to all members. I think, Chair, it's positive that, irrespective of our different political viewpoints, I think largely you can see those significant consensus in these discussions from members from the public, etc. And I think we'd agree with Honourable Ryder, Chair, that, yes, it can be frustrating when you make submissions, but I think for us, this is an ongoing discussion, it's an ongoing journey. Hence we also do raise issues which you hope members would also take up, Treasury colleagues would also take up as you prepare for the budget speech in 3 months' time. Chair, I think for us, if you really look back on the successes of the Mandela and Mbeki administrations, it was because of SARS. I think that's why for us, Chair, we should just simply give a blank check to the Commission of SARS, because there's a huge multiplier effect. And, if you have a 2/3 tax compliance rate, we should be really saying, how can we boost that? Because that is money owed to the state. It is not correct that, a teacher in Khayelitsha is paying their taxes, but a wealthy businessman in Joburg is finding clever ways to skim and to avoid taxes. And if we want to fix the state, invest in public services, pay down the debt, then SARS is the engine room. And you can see there's been really positive work by the team of SARS, and we must really applaud them. Chair, I think for us on the fuel price, this is a way to give relief to commuters, to businesses, to the economy. We know it's not an easy thing. There's about 5 or 6 different fuel taxes and levies and so forth. And of course, we appreciate the fiscus is also under tight pressure, but there is some space, we think. This is a commitment made by successive ministers of energy, of finance, and even the president, over the past 4 years. And we should really be saying, how do we translate this into an action? Similarly around VAT exemption for key items. Some items may want to say sanitary pads. Maybe the state should provide them in public education health facilities, but we should have some sort of intervention. So we raised the road accident fund because that is a key part of the fuel taxes or the fuel levy. And there's huge problems of corruption, of mismanagement, etc., that we think they're trying to deal with. But again, if you can fix that, you can help to ease the pressure on the fuel price, and that benefits the economy. On the wage bill and all of that, I mean, look, we're just quoting the stats of the budget. The wage bill has been at 35% for 15 years, so it hasn't grown disproportionately. And in fact, in the last 2 years, it's actually come down by 10%. And we're feeling that you can see the strains. If you look at Home Affairs, the long queues, look at hospitals, the long queues, the decline of police headcount. But we would agree, the Honourable Chair, with Honourable Ryder, other members who said that let's separate the executives, let's separate senior management from the actual frontline services of nurses, of teachers, of police officers. We think we need to reinforce the frontline services, and where we should be cutting on the executive, on the senior management, etc. We can't justify, Chair, 43 deputy ministers or 9,500 councillors. Yet we have a police headcount declining. That first, it can't be equated. On the issue of ghost posts, Chair, we think there is space to do some auditing. I think PRASA had found about 3,000 ghost posts previously. We're convinced that in some municipalities you will find some, and it's definitely a worthwhile exercise to do, which we have been raising to Honourable Majola's point. But Chair, I think, we've seen at ESCOM, at SARS, you can rebuild the state. We're even seeing it at SAA, and that provides an invaluable service to the economy. Yes, you'll spend money today, but what you'll capture back through taxes, through economic growth, through jobs, is much, much greater than that. not saying we must spend recklessly, you can't, but we think if you fix key parts of the state, there's an immediate multiplier to society. If you fix home affairs, workers don't lose wages because they don't have to queue for 6 days. It means that workplace where they come from is not disrupted for those 6 days, etc., etc. Chair, but we had really hoped to see in the budget, the appropriation bill, some sort of solution to the teaching crisis in the Western Cape. And we will need to have a solution to that and also to other provinces which we think will be in a crisis down the road. But I think, Chair, what is our fundamental solution? It's to fix the states, to stimulate the economy, to create jobs, because that's what's going to ultimately do it. We can cut the budget left, right, and center, but we'll be in the same discussion in a year's time. And in fact, we might be in a worse scenario because then you'll see the public services will be declining further. And I think for us, it's about doing the fundamental obstacles to growing the economy, not simply treating it as an accounting exercise. But I think honorable members also raise key issues. We should really be saying, how do we grow the manufacturing sector? I think was one honorable member raised. And we shouldn't be content with spending about 10 billion rand on industrial financing and spending 35 times that on social grants. We should begin a discussion to say, how do we invest more in growing the manufacturing industries and shifting the ratio of our persons who are working to those who are receiving social grants, because ultimately you want to reverse those ratios. We had been quite dismayed, Chair, that the presidential promise stimulus has been a wonderful thing. It's been far better than the EPWP or CWP, which really have not delivered the skills and the employment path we need to create. But the PES has been useful. It's created skills, confidence, experience to help people find work. And it's been beyond dismaying for us, Chair, that it's been cut from 36 to 3 billion rand. And we really hope that Parliament can try to put its weight behind that. Chair, on the Eskom debt issue, I mean, the stat you received from Eskom, it's about 90 billion rand, give or take, of municipal debt. And that's grown exponentially. It's nearly doubled in the past couple of years and may double again by 2027 if one hits Eskom correctly. So we need to have a discussion there about how to ensure that municipalities, and it's not just poor communities who are defaulting, it's a myth. You find that wealthy businesses, even embassies, government institutions are defaulting. So those who can pay and must definitely be made to pay. And we need to have a discussion on prepaid meters, etc. But we also do need a new municipal funding model for those municipalities. We just simply don't have the rate space. We may need to consolidate some because their rate space is just too small. But also you do need to fix municipalities too, because some of these issues are around mismanagement, etc., etc. I think lastly, Chair, one just gallop because I know time pressures. We had really hoped on the post office. So the post office, that's a court agreement for the business practitioners and government. It was committed to in the budget. And the post office will engage with the colleagues at the Department of Communications. They've said that if they don't receive the money soon, the post office will go into liquidation. They don't have the luxury of waiting 6 more months. And there is a turnaround plan that's been put in place. Parliament has passed legislation to repivot the post office. So I think our plea there is for Parliament also put its weight to put pressure for Treasury to honor that commitment to the post office for the trench, which was due already, Chair. But I think hopefully we've answered all the questions. Maybe the last one, Chair, is that the sixth Parliament did good work passing the Public Procurement Bill Act now. There is discussion with Treasury around regulations for it. We hope to see it come into effect next year because that really is going to boost locally manufactured goods, local jobs, local businesses. And that really, for us, is one of the key interventions to growing the states and to reducing unemployment and to supporting local businesses, Chair. But I think let me stop there, Chair, and hope one answered the questions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Comrade Matthew. Dr. Andani, do you have anything that you might maybe want to say? I know it's not your platform to respond to any submissions or to make new submissions or try to respond to any questions that might have been raised, but just to register your presence, kindly say a word or two to the stakeholders and the members on the platform, please.
Thanks very much, Honorable Chairperson. Can you see me? Yes, I think
Yes, we can.
Yes, let me just raise a few things. Starting with the point raised by Honorable Swart. He raised a question, how can we turn things around? There is a general understanding also at a mean combat level, Ministers' Committee on Budget, that to turn things around, we need to grow the economy. And chapter 2 of the our MTBPS publication on the economic outlook, there are anchors there for our growth strategy. Building a capable state, meaning that it's supposed to be a state that can fight crime, etc. Structural reforms, the operation of volunteer interventions, and other pillars there are on chapter 2 of the MTBPS. Just to say that almost 60% of the budget goes towards the social wage, things like education and housing, etc. So mean that 40% goes towards the rest of the spending items. Let me also link this with the issue of public employment programs. On page, I think page 35 of our MTBPS publication, there is a box that talks to active labor markets, including public employment programs.
Dr. Randane, I'm going to request that you do not provoke a discussion between yourselves and members, because there'll be a review where the minister will be responding to almost everything that has been raised by members around February. Mine was just to greet and register your presence, because I know by going member by member, you are provoking discussions, and this platform is for members and the stakeholders.
No, point taken, Chair. Let me end here for now, Chair, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and thank you very much for all the stakeholders that came before the committee today. And as we come close to today's session, I really want to take this moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for your valuable contributions concerning the Special Appropriations Bill and Adjustment Appropriations Bill. Truly, your insights and perspectives are crucial in making sure that we shape our work and ensuring that we address the needs of our communities effectively. You must be rest assured as stakeholders that this is not just a box-ticking exercise. Your thoughtful submissions that we received today will play a very integral role in our committee's discussion as we move forward. I want to assure each and every one of you that each suggestion, each concern, each recommendation will really be given the careful consideration it deserves as we consolidate our report for tabling in the House. I therefore, members, going to request that we leave the meeting, or we leave this platform knowing that whatever that you have submitted have been heard by the committee and will be considered. We are a committee that is committed to transparency and collaborations, and truly your input is so essential to our legislative process. So let us be assured that our committee will work diligently in incorporating your feedbacks and your recommendations as we finalize our report, and as we will be putting our reports on the bill on Tuesday, from Tuesday and Wednesday next week. Your points will really be captured in our report. We don't take the submissions made by your good selves light, because as they also assist us in doing our works as public representatives and as legislators. So let me once again thank you for your active participation and commitment to improving our communities as well. We're looking forward to working together beyond this process. Thank you very much, and thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and I'm going to request members to remain on the platform as stakeholders vacate the platform. Thank you very much. Thanks for your insight inputs.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, honorable members.
You're most welcome. Mr. Nodada, prepare the minutes so that we do not take much time of members.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will take guidance from your Honorable Secretary.
Honorable members, we only have one set of minutes, which is the minutes of the previous meeting that was held on the 3rd of December. Mr. Nodada, kindly take members through the minutes. The minutes were previously sent to all members for their consideration, so you can just go them through page by page.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, the set of minutes dated 3rd December 2024 are on the screen. On that day, the committee dealt with the final mandates on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill B13 of 2024, together with the report of the committee on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. This is page 1. Page 2. Page 3. And page 4, which is the last page. Thank you, Chairperson. Over to you.
By show of hands, members, are we agreeing to the minutes as a true reflection of the deliberations on the 3rd of December's meeting? Members, are we agreeing?
Honorable Ndlovu's hand is up, Chair. Oh, sorry.
Honorable Ndlovu, you may come in.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. I hereby move for the adoption of the minutes as presented. Thanks very much.
Honorable Ndlovu moves. Is there any seconder to the mover? Mr. Nodada, I seem not to see from my side.
Honorable Numalo's hand is up, Chair.
Honorable Numalo. Honorable Numalo.
The other hand, which is up, is Honorable
Honorable Raida.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yes, I would like to second the approval of the minutes as a true reflection. But just on a side matter, Chair, if I can ask the Secretariat to just forward me a copy of the Free State's final mandate, please. I would appreciate that. That's just for my personal records. But I am seconding the minutes. Thank you. The approval of the minutes. Thank you, Chair.
The request is in order and the minutes are duly adopted. Colleagues, thank you very much for making time on a Friday morning to come and sit in this meeting, having public hearings, and we're working towards the end of this term. And before going to recess, our last committee meeting will be on Tuesday, where we'll be considering and adopting the reports for the said bills and the conditional grants allocation to provinces and local government. See you again on Tuesday, members. Thank you very much, support staff, members of the committee, and your dedication to this work really encourages one to be on her toe at all and on her toes at all times. And every time one is looking forward to come and meeting with this incredible team of honorable members and the support staff. Thank you very much for your inspiration, members. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Chair Lady, for your guidance.
Thank you, Chair.
Lomo Wirabush, wena Kaiza Wirabush, most platform.
I'm a civic I will high. Most of the election different logo Tawazim. Guys, the elections are done in Tawazim. Come back home.
Yeah, I'm done.
Bye, my person.
Leadership. Oh my Lord. And it's cheesy lang. Yo. Ay, ay. Ndaba ezimbi.